China has a very long history and a large territory for its vast population, which is approximately 9,596,960 squared kilometers, meaning they occupy 6.1% of the whole world, subsequently making them the third biggest country in the world. Being one of the only 5 communist states to exist today, the entire country is ruled by a sole party called the Chinese Communist Party, which has dominion over a sum total of about 1.4 billion people. The Chinese Communist Party, founded in 1921 in Shanghai, originally existed as a Marxist study group which was created by Li Zhao, who is the head librarian at Peking University. He was later joined by Mao Zedong a year later after the formation of the study group in the year 1918, the basis on which the group was to study their interest in the communist and socialist theories which we saw rise in the 20th century. Li Zhao assessed and came up with a strategy to conquer the widespread poverty of the peasant-based population, who he believed were in those straits due to exploitation by foreigners, which is understandable since China was a significant economic hotspot before the early 19th century, when China descended into an economic decline that was coined the Daogong Depression. In 1949, after a fierce civil war, Chinese Communist Party leader Mao Zedong declared creating the People's Republic of China. The concept of Marxism was a spiritual utopia to the early communists. On the other hand, they modified or syncretized some doctrines of early communist ideology in a realistic and nationalist way to support their revolution in China. These ideological syntheses led to the famous Great Leap Forward movement and the Cultural Revolution, a campaign launched by then-leader Mao Zedong to get rid of his rivals, which led to massive social, economic, and political upheaval in China. After Mao died in 1976, the country slowly emerged from stagnation with the reforms of Deng Xiaoping, which led to the opening up to foreign trade and investment and implementing free market reforms in 1979. China has been among the world's fastest growing economies, with authentic annual gross domestic product growth averaging 9.5% and have eventually become the world's second largest economy. Current President Xi Jinping came to power in 2012 and has since overseen China's emergence as a global superpower. Due to their current position as a growing world power and their union under one political party which has no adversary, the country has turned its attention towards expanding its influence across the world to become a hegemony on its own. The foremost way this has been happening is through the territorial dispute they've gotten into with other countries over territories and a ploy for more resources, both for maritime and land territories. China has had disputes with 17 countries over the years. One of these instances is the South China Sea dispute. With a surface area of over 3.5 million squared kilometers, South China holds tremendous economic and geostrategic importance. With 1/3 of the world's maritime shipping passing through it, there's an estimate of $3 trillion in trade each year. There are also enormous oil and natural gas reserves believed to lie beneath its seabed. It contains lucrative fisheries which are crucial for the food security of millions of Southeast Asians. The South China Sea Islands, collectively comprising several archipelago clusters of mostly small uninhabited islands, islets, reefs, and seamounts numbering in the hundreds, are subject to competing claims of sovereignty by several countries. Since rights to the sea would generate a lot of money, and obviously, China wants exclusive rights to the entirety of this gold mine. However, it's hard to, since neighboring countries like Taiwan, Brunei, Vietnam, Indonesia, the Philippines, Malaysia, and the US, who all want a slice, have shown their interest in the area. What is China's answer to all of this? Well, they started by asserting the use of the 9-dash line, also referred to as the 10-dash line most times, in a bid by China to annex Taiwan into their territory, what was formerly known as the 11-dash line. If you're wondering what the 9-dash line is, the 9-dash line represents the maximum extent of Chinese historical claims within the South China Sea. China's claim is not that the entire space within the 9-dash line is their territory to control, but that the islands within it, the Paracel, Spratly, Zongsha, and Pratas, all belong to them. It was made by citing maritime records which date back to the Chinese Han Dynasty period, which went on from 2006 BC to 9 AD, by Chinese geographer Yang Huaren in 1947. However, the boundaries are not accepted despite China's push for it, since it goes against the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, which is an international agreement that establishes a legal framework for all marine and maritime activities. All parties in UNCLOS treaties are granted an exclusive economic zone, a concept adopted at the Third United Nations Conference on the Law of the Sea, whereby a coastal state assumes jurisdiction over the exploration and exploitation of marine resources on its adjacent section of the continental shelf, taken to be a band extending 200 miles from the shore. The 9-dash line has been used as an excuse to break the rules of the treaty by China, using historical claims as a basis. They have taken very drastic measures in their quest for the territory. An example of this is the dispute over reefs and islands called the Spratly Islands, which is currently claimed by China, Vietnam, the Philippines, and Malaysia. These small patches of land are essential because the occupation of any of the islands means an extension of the preset 200 miles EEZ, which each country possesses due to the UNCLOS. All the countries each have their military bases on the islands to defend the islands with a show of military might. In 2009, Vietnam started to take over the Parade Islands. China decided to take action too by building artificial islands, by dredging underwater reefs. They've managed to make a total of 7 islands in the Spratly area, and so, which they claimed by raising their flags on them, these actions have sparked outrage across the world. A reason for the anger is because the Spratly and Paracel Island are both claimed mainly by the Philippines and Vietnam each, but China ignored these there by blocking the sea route of each country in the South China Sea, and militarizing the islands by adding radar facilities, storage spaces for weapons, air and naval bases, which goes against international law. Sadly for China, however, the island has been sinking since the climate of the area cannot support the structure they built on place. China's Belt and Road Initiative, which is also referred to as the New Silk Road, has also been seen as a way through which China is slowly dominating the world by making investments into infrastructures like ports, roads, and rails, which allows China to connect with the world at large and loans. The initiative is suggested to have 2,600 plus projects in over 100 countries. The BRI is estimated to raise over 7 billion people out of poverty, the World Bank. But the expansion is striking fear in the heart of Western countries and others, since through the loans China has provided to these countries, they are slowly taking over, if bit, by making them economically dependent on them. China has pushed to exploit foreign raw materials, especially minerals, fossil fuels, agricultural commodities, for its perpetually hungry industries on virtually every continent. Considering its wealth and resources, Africa has emerged as the main target of investments and influence. It is no coincidence that China is present in 39 countries through the BRI and has emerged as the continent's biggest trade partner. The continent is estimated to owe a debt of $148 billion to China alone. There have been cases of them taking over infrastructures like in Uganda, where they took over the only international airport in the country since they couldn't pay their debt of $207 million to the Export-Import Bank of China. Another example is Sri Lanka, which fell into a debt trap. Sri Lanka has borrowed heavily from China for infrastructure, some of which ended up as duds. Unable to pay a $1.4 billion loan for a port construction in southern Sri Lanka, Colombo was forced to lease the facility to a Chinese company for 99 years in 2017 and have given up some acres of land in the process. What are your thoughts on China's expansion policies? You can put them down in the comment section, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Until next time.